It's time for All Hands on Tech.
Climb on board as we explore all the amazing things happening in Nova Scotia's tech sector. Each episode, we'll chat with local experts to uncover the secrets of what makes Nova Scotia the best place for collaboration, innovation, and creativity.
All Hands on Tech is proudly produced by Digital Nova Scotia, the industry association for Nova Scotia's growing tech sector.
Welcome back to All Hands on Tech. I am Lena.
And I'm Ashley. Today's guest leads one of the best places to work in Atlantic Canada. And I'm not just saying that, they actually earned that title earlier this year. From web design to mobile app development and SEO services, immediac has been helping startups to publicly traded companies build strong online presences for over 25 years.
With more than 4,000 projects already under their belt, we are so excited to pick the brain of immediac's founder and CEO, John Leahy, to learn more about the industry and how it's evolved and what it actually feels like to run a successful tech company. Welcome to All Hands on Tech, John.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. We obviously gave a rundown of immediac, but let's kind of go back, okay? 25 years. How did you start? Give us your story.
This was my second attempt to start a database company. I started a database company almost right out of school. It was called Sigma Technology.
Okay.
And we could tell then, this is like 1990, 1991. Oh, this database thing is going to be huge. And I had a great passion for databases. And I got on the phone and I started working my network and we're going to build databases. And I think we got one database contract to take this guy's index cards, which were all the people he was calling to clean their carpets. Like it was a sweatshop call center, Glengarry, Glen Ross, they're on the phone, dialing for dollars, and we built them a little database. But mostly people were, yeah, John, database, okay, maybe. Could you help us with this word perfect and Lotus 123 thing? Because we got this computer in the office now and nobody knows how to use it. And Sigma Technology became a computer training company. By 1995, 96, we had 5 classrooms in the Maritime Center. We had a contract with MT&T, and we were teaching people how to use Lotus and Word and DOS. Like most people today are like, DOS, what are you talking about? Right. No, you had to go CD / my files / whatever, and it was a nightmare. And then Windows came along, and computers got a lot easier to use, and we could see that was going to end, and we sold that business. And then one day, and I worked for a company that bought that training business for a couple of years. And then one day, a buddy of mine called me up and said, look, I want to put my membership database on a disk. I said, no, you don't. You want to take these Microsoft Active Server page things and have a database of your membership. People go on the internet and they can log in and they can get your membership list instead of you having to print out a membership directory. And he's like, yeah, John, can you put that on a disk? And I said, sure. But we built the sort of automated website thing that was, in 1998, a membership database. So the database company, again, got started, and everybody just wanted a website.
Right.
So we started building websites, and we're like, yeah, really, with websites? No, here, look, here's your design thing, and you can put your own content in. We built a content management system in 1999. And people just kept showing up and asking for websites. And we built a lot of little websites, but we were always a programming shop. So today, we run all of the web presence and membership login and booking services for Massage Addict, which is a franchise that started here. They own on Dragon's Den. They have 100 franchises.
I think that's where my masseuse is, Massage Addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got 20 locations in Halifax, and they're franchising across the country. The teachers union is a client. We do everything for them. They have 40 websites. They have conference management. They have membership management. They have online voting. All of those database tools, effectively, or what today is an interactive website. Everybody has an interactive website.
Okay.
You
Wow.
have a very fascinating story. So at a time when people didn't know what internet was or what's tech, what got you into database? What sparked your passion?
Well, that goes all the way back to high school. So I'm at Fredericton High School, 3,700 kids in 1983. And, I wasn't on the basketball team and I wasn't on the football team. And I was standing in this bus line one day. I was more likely over in the arcade pumping quarters into Defender or Space Invaders or Asteroid or one of those things, and was fascinated by video games, of course. And I heard these guys in the bus line talking about the computer lab. Computer lab?
Yeah.
At this place? Really? So I went looking for it. Now, 3,700 kids. This thing was huge. The school, that is. And I wandered around till I found the computer lab. It was down in the home ec wing near the typewriters. And there was a classroom with 25 Commodore PETs around the edge. I went to the library, got a book, went to the lab after school. By the time I took computer ed the next year in grade 11, there was 3 or 4 of us. We knew way more than the teacher. The poor math teachers, they sent away for 2 weeks. Okay, you teach computer ed, get going. She had 2 weeks. And I was hooked. But my other passion was always business. So I did a business degree, but I was always figuring out how to write software, and computers were the coolest way to be in business that I could figure out.
That's so cool. I love that story. It was just an interest as a young kid.
And in those days, guys my age, we talk about today, you go online and you download a program or you download a game. If you wanted a game in 1984, you bought a magazine and it was 7 pages of code and you typed it into the Commodore 64 and you hope you didn't get it wrong. Sorry, I'm typing on the table. And the guys in the booth are going, what did he just do to the table? So you're typing this in line by line for like 4 hours. Late bus is coming. You go over to the cassette recorder and push record, and you save the program on a standard cassette. Now the guys in the booth are banging.
Yeah. That is wild,
It's real.
Yeah.
The only way to get a program was to buy a magazine or type it in out of a book.
It's so cool because you've been at the forefront of like the evolution of the internet and computers. Like, it's so cool to, be in business. Yeah, you're going to say something about the phone.
It is so cool. We take it for granted. About 7 or 8 years ago, one of my kids came to me. I think my daughter, who was maybe she was 15 at the time, she came to me and said, I think we're going to run out of something. I don't know. We're going to run out of bandwidth. Or we're going to run out of some resource. And I said, no, you don't understand. First of all, the phone company or the providers are laying lots of dark fiber. There's tons of bandwidth. Don't worry. That's before we had Netflix and Prime and TikTok and all these things. You had 7 people in your house who are sucking up bandwidth at dial-up. Who has dial-up?
Yeah.
I said, and I went and did the math. Her iPhone 4 didn't have 7 or 8 or 10. It had 100 Cray supercomputers in it. So in 1973 computing power, a Cray supercomputer cost, I forget the number now. It's like $1 million to buy a Cray supercomputer in 1973. And we're all walking around with 100 or 200 the computing power. Never mind the fact it's GPS. I can see where all my friends are on Snapchat or whatever. I can do a video call in an instant with somebody.
So true. It's a very interesting point you bring up, because I was going to say, when my siblings first moved to North America for university, this is not that long ago, maybe like back in 2006, when video calling wasn't a big deal. It wasn't as big as it's now. It would be so fascinating to see them once in a while through like a picture. And I can't even now recall how we would actually see a picture of them versus now. Yeah.
And one thing that I always think about too is like, even in middle school, okay, we had a research project. I remember going to the school library and looking at encyclopedias. And now it's like any little question I have, I can be like, hey, Google, I don't even have to type it in anymore. I can just talk to the computer. It is wild.
And that's about to get run down like a rabbit under a transport truck.
What do you mean?
So if you
do tell.
So I'm going to go back further just for fun to give this emphasis, because when I first started doing computer training in the 90s, every computer had Lotus and WordPerfect, and it ran Microsoft DOS, and maybe if you were really fancy pants, you had Ashton Tate DBase 3. Those were unmovable. Those companies were colossal successes. Lotus, there's a great story about Lotus. They had built spreadsheets before. And these guys got together and said, we need to make a spreadsheet for the PC. IBM is going to roll out a PC and they're going to kill everybody, and it's going to be open source. We need $1 million to build it, and we need $1 million to market it, and we'll sell $3 million the first year. So they did all that, except they sold $10 million worth of Lotus in the first year. When the IBM PC came out, it revolutionized everything, because if you wanted even the simplest little program to do your expenses or do inventory control, whatever, you had to send it to some guys or gals in the basement in Toronto running a mainframe. Now you could buy a PC out of petty cash. So by the end of the 90s, everybody's running a computer, It's got Lotus, and it's got WordPerfect. So you can do word processing, you can do spreadsheets, and maybe a few other specialized things. And then Windows comes along and kills them. Who's running Lotus? Nobody. Who's running WordPerfect? I mean, an Ottawa company called Corel Draw, who had a really cool program, but they're gone. Microsoft absolutely ran them down. And search was dead, and Google came along in the late 90s and turned search into something. Search is dead now. ChatGPT is going to run that stuff over. Last night, I wanted to know something. I heard a guy on a video say, you can't do this thing to a diesel engine in a boat. You can't sail it with the engine running. I think I know that. How do I figure that out? So I start Googling. I can't find squat. I get the manual. I have the paper manual for this thing. Doesn't say it. I go to ChatGPT. Hey, in my Yanmar YM30 diesel marine engine, at what angle can I operate that effectively? What angle of heel can I operate that effectively? It came back and gave me the exact answer. You can operate at 17 degrees. I said, where did you get this information? It's on page 36 of the user manual. I said, not on mine. It said, I'm using user manual model number 1007.
Wow. No, I know what you mean.
What?
Yeah, because sometimes, I get so annoyed with Siri or whatever. Like you ask them something that's not even that complicated and they're like, sorry, I can't figure that out. And it's, sometimes it's like, oh, what time is this restaurant open until or something, which, should be easy enough to. Anyways, I digress. I know what you mean. Like,
but your point was this is a crazy, exciting time.
Right.
But it has been for 25 years and it hasn't even really started yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh my. Well, this is exciting. Okay, we do have some questions prepared for you, but we do want to get to know you a little bit better, John. So we have some rapid fire questions. These are fun, don't worry. The first one, what's more important, keywords or links?
So search engine optimization is bullshit because it doesn't matter how many number one listings you have. It doesn't matter how many links you have to your page. If a human comes to the page and it's not useful information, you're absolutely wasting your time.
Okay.
So the most important thing is content.
Okay.
Useful, interesting content that tells you exactly how long you can operate your engine at a 25-degree heel or whatever.
Okay.
A very common question I get from business owners, though, is that how do I make my website stand out? There are so many similar businesses. So to your point, content is very important for sure, but how do you even get people to come visit your website to read your content?
Two things. Really good content.
Okay.
Right? So it has to be worthwhile. You can't just put up ChatGPT junk, right? It has to be useful information. And then second, links.
Okay.
Where? Social media, links on your own site, how the site works. Google looks at how your own site links to it, and then getting links on other people's sites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We once did a site for George LaRock. Now, George LaRock was a fighter in the NHL. I didn't really know who he was, but he was on the Pittsburgh team with Sidney Crosby for a while. He got one hat trick. Like he had 2 goals in that game and somebody else. And then he went to Montreal and he launched his own website. And we really weren't really paying attention to what he was up to. But he was a colossally good self-promoter. And the day he launched his website, he crashed our servers. Because he got a link on the NHL site, he got a link on the Montreal Canadiens site, and it was on the homepage of the NHL site. Everybody who went to the NHL site, oh, George LaRock's got a website. And he drove so much traffic that first day that he crashed the server. So links from very good places or a lot of links from, not so good places also work.
I know that is a strategy sometimes too, isn't it?
Yeah, and Google says it's not allowed.
Yeah.
But I've seen it work for spammers and hackers and all kinds of things, and Google doesn't kick them out. It's really hard to tell what's a good link and what's a bad link. But quality.
Okay, perfect. Do you prefer in-office meetings or virtual ones?
Well, if I'm on my boat, then I want to be virtual. If I'm in the office, then everybody should be in the office where I'm at.
Okay.
What's your favorite genre of music?
Adult acoustic folk, like William Prince. I'm drawing a blank on names. But sometimes I go to see live music and I get sort of a little bit turned. I saw William Prince twice, the last 2 times he was here, and I didn't listen to him as much afterwards. When I was in Toronto, my wife bought us tickets to go see Dave Matthews. I've listened to nothing but Dave Matthews for the last year.
He's great.
But he doesn't really fit a genre either.
I saw him in Halifax, actually.
Yeah.
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 It was a great show. Anyways.
He's a performer.
Yeah. He's great. We have only one last one, and it was, where was the last place that you ate out in Halifax?
I'm trying to think. There's
Like,
so many.
don't
There's
eat it.
so many good places.
Yeah.
The last one.
Or you could say what your favorite one is, even if
Yeah,
you're not.
I've been to Battery Park recently. That I always
Ooh,
like.
Dartmouth, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one.
Leo, the guy who built that place, Leo, was a friend of mine. He was a real business guy. Him and his son started those businesses, Battery Park and Brooklyn Warehouse.
Yeah, okay.
I'd be in the woods on camping trips with him, and he'd be talking about these places he wanted to build. I'm like, why don't you just hurry up and do it? Like, come on. And then when they bought the place in Dartmouth, it was a restaurant, and they closed it. And he worked on it with his own hands for like 2 years. I'd go in and make fun of him. Leo, this was a restaurant. What is wrong with you? What are you doing here? And now if you go in there, you see what he was doing. And it was such a project for him to build from scratch for 2 years. It was a beautiful thing to watch.
It must be. And you know what? It's because I live in Dartmouth, and it's the place that we take visitors to,
Of
you know,
course, yeah.
and it's always busy. So, you know, it's great. But I mean, not for me, because I want to get in and I always have to wait. But it is a great spot. So good shout out to them.
Yeah. So you have been in business for 25 years now, and we did talk about how the tech landscape has changed since you became passionate about tech. We would love to hear, how have things changed at Immediacy during the last 25 years? And also the overall industry, how has that evolved?
That's a great question. The biggest change is I grew up. Like I was a kid, thought it was okay to yell at people. That's not okay. That doesn't work ever.
Yeah.
But hey, I grew up in an environment where that was the model. If you didn't get your way, you throw a fit. And one of the biggest changes is that we don't work in authoritarian kinds of environments anymore. You don't just get to tell people what to do. And that's my favorite thing to do, just shut up then. And I had a coach more than 25 years ago in a previous business. Like I'm 56. I've been in business since I was 18. But the coach said to me, John, like, what are you doing? Like every time there's any kind of problem in the business, you jump up on the table, throw it on the table, and like start killing it. And everybody else just goes, woo, there it goes. And I called him up, 25 years later and went, oh my God, you were right. I was just not ready to hear that.
That's very interesting, because I also feel like the work culture has changed so much, because at some point, surprisingly enough, it might have been okay for you to yell at your employees or just get on the table, give them a solution and tell them what to do. And that was what people expected, right?
The command and control thing was normal. But one of the things that I'm most proud of, and I didn't do it by myself, but the team did it. People showed up. I mean, I used to get upset at work. And a guy that I've worked with now 15 years pulled me aside one day, maybe 10 years ago, and said, John, when you freak out, when you lose your shit, everybody panics. Like, you can't, and he said it to me in nautical terms, which he knew would speak to me. He said, you're the captain of the ship. You can't be losing your mind because, we screwed up a customer thing, or we made that mistake, or somebody wasted 3 days on a problem that didn't work. Like, stop doing that.
But it's amazing. You can tell that you're a good or better leader now because you're able to even just acknowledge that. That's a pretty vulnerable thing to say, like, I screwed up back then.
Oh, all the time. And so I think the most important thing we can do in an organization is make it, especially in tech, is make it a safe place to fail. Because otherwise no one's getting creative about solving things. If I'm going to get yelled at, or even, you don't have to get yelled at. You just have to go, what's wrong with you? Like, you can do that in a look. I know that I can do it. I was like, oh, sorry. And I still go back to politics. So I had a bad day, and I kind of gave you a hard time about that thing that you didn't get right 4 times. Oh, sorry. That's not what I meant. It's easy to say, oh, we're going to promote a safe place, and it's a good place, a safe place to fail, and la, la, la.
Yeah, you got to walk the walk.
And it's really, on those months when you're not going to make money, those months on those projects that are really hard to finish, on those projects, like I'm super transparent now. Like the only success I've had has come out of colossal failures.
That's what they say. You need to fail to.
And we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
Like the first time I tried to grow immediacy, we were 3 people. We talked about the C. We had a big C, immediacy. It looked like a hockey logo. And Farrendaub was the employee number 1 or employee number 2. I was just talking to him recently. He's running his own graphic design agency in Fredericton, or Moncton rather. Anyway, Farren built this logo, and like, I got to find a salesperson. And I found a guy, and he hired 2 guys, and then we had a project manager. And pretty soon we were 12 people, and we grew from, I don't know, we were doing 300,000 or 400,000 in sales. We did about 600,000 in sales, and we spent like 7 or 8 or 900,000. And I was almost $1 million in debt.
Wow.
And we ran out of money. Most of it we owed to CRA and some to ACOA, and it was very difficult. And we shrunk to 3 people and 300,000 in sales again. And I went to my accountant. He said, all right, give me that. I'll do your SR and ED tax credit. I'll do your tax. I'm not even going to charge you. You got to go down the hall and talk to my partner. So I go down the hall and I'm talking to the partner. I'm in the room 10, 15 minutes with these guys. I'm like, these are the bankruptcy guys. No.
Yeah.
And I owed a lot of smaller people, $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000. And when you go bankrupt, you can't protect people. You can say, all right, thanks, COA and the bank or the phone company, people that's not really going to hurt. But there were other people just like me who would have invested money.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go bankrupt, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
And those guys are like, well, I could have. And,
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been good for me personally. But it was hard with those guys. It'll take you 5 years. It took 7.
Mm-hmm.
But we paid everybody back.
That's amazing. You kept at it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious when that shift kind of happened for you, because I know immediacy is, one of your core values is that people come first, and cultivating that like safe work environment is super important for you guys. It's what, led to you being one of the best places to work out here in Atlantic Canada. So, why is that something that's so important to you now? Obviously, you've learned a lot over the years, but kind of when did that shift, and when was that kind of a focus for immediacy?
I always said it. That it's for us. We'd sit in a meeting of the people who work there. It's for us first, not the customers. Because if it's good for us, then it'll be good for the customer. It's not like we're ignoring the customer. So there was no one single shift. It evolved slowly. The day that Todd said to me, you have to stop, freaking out if things are difficult. You can't lose your shit at people. Mm-hmm. And that was a strategy of mine. And I learned that growing up, and I had to unlearn it. And I'm still unlearning it sometimes. It's not a thing that just goes away. But that is the single most important thing that happened. And then it took 5 years. I made a study out of it too. I mean, I still read every business book that I can get my hands on. Good to great. Well, we took the measures idea. Let's find one thing or 2 things that we can measure in the business and focus on. I mean, business is really pretty easy. Revenue minus expenses equals profit. And if you're making profit, then it's fun and it's easy. And if you're not, then it's hard and you go out of business. Mm-hmm. That's an oversimplification, of course.
Like you make it sound so easy.
But that's all that it is.
Yeah.
Really. No different than running your household. This is my paycheck, these are my expenses.
But it is interesting that there has been such a shift to focus on employees, because you're not, you can have a business that's making profit, but it's no fun if no one's having fun.
No, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's ongoing cultivation too, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And getting to where people are at.
So you've got a lot of attention for being such a positive place to work at. And we can clearly tell from you sharing your journey with us. How does it feel, especially from someone who started as yelling as a tactic?
You know what? It wasn't a deliberate tactic. It was a habit.
Okay.
It's one of those things that I did that, maybe I was aware of it. I never felt good about it. I always felt terrible afterwards. And, sometimes it would work. But ultimately, people go away. They're not going to, and maybe less so 20 years ago and instantly today.
Yeah.
Right? That's not how we treat each other. In fact, my wife and I had this conversation the other day because, often at home we tend to be, I had a hard day, so my temper and my fuse a little shorter at home, and I'm more likely to snap at my wife and I'm like, why would I do that? I don't do that at work. I would never talk to, and we talk openly about it because, we've been together for 33 years next month, 32 years. Why would we be short and snappy with each other when we would never behave that way with a coworker
Right.
who's, certainly less important than a spouse?
It's just easy sometimes. That's the problem.
We take it for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
We take it for granted.
I mean, you kind of addressed it, but let's not beat around the bush, because this is a pretty amazing it's a pretty amazing accolade to get, best workplaces in Atlantic Canada. I mean, when you heard that, like, what did you think? Like, that's a pretty big thing.
Yeah. The awards come after the thing. And people get awards, always say this, and it's like, shmeh. The exciting part is that people get to come to work and be who they are. And they get to be open about, their self-improvement. And that's really, like, that's what I say today. It's like, this place is for us, and this is an incubator for us to get better. So we want to help people get to wherever they're going and be whoever they want to be, and create a safe place to do that.
I think that's obviously a sign of a good employer. You want what's best for your employee.
Yeah.
And whether that means obviously staying with immediacy or finding a new adventure, if you're happy for them, that's great.
And look, I said at the beginning, I've always said that people on the team help me do that. Like, somebody's going to see this thing and they'll see this podcast, and they'll have worked at immediacy 10 or 15 years ago when, we had to lay people off. I still yelled at people. I really did. It wasn't always a good place to work. Sometimes it was good. Sometimes it wasn't. And, we had an amazing 2 years. And the last year, we had a bunch of big contracts from the U.S. and we were working with some partners, and we grew like crazy. And it was the most amazing it was really good to behave that way. Easy. It's been harder when we weren't growing as fast. And we even shrank a little bit. It's like, whoa. And we're like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't do co-ops anymore. I said, no, co-ops are a clear part of our value. The first minute that we're not growing and making lots of money, we're going to stop co-op. No, we're going to still do co-ops. About 80% of the people who work at immediacy were a co-op at immediacy first.
That's amazing.
Why would we stop doing co-ops? This is a great recruiting strategy. We have a great team. And people really, there's a bunch of people who showed up and did the HR policy and did, the finance and accounting, and fix the technology. Life in a technology company is very stressful if the technology's not working and the hackers from China are coming in and hacking it, and you got to work 12 hours a day for 3 weeks. And then you still have to shut the server down. I mean, we went through tough times.
So when it comes to culture, what you're sharing right now, I think is a very common experience for a lot of new entrepreneurs who are starting a business, especially in the tech industry, because it's so competitive and it's so fast. What advice would you have for them who are trying to keep up with that high pace, high stress environment, at the same time trying to build a place where people feel that they're treated as humans?
I think for me personally, when I look back, the stress came out of a shortage of resources, usually money. I've recently started another business, and we had the resources to do that. So when it's like, oh, we really needed that tool, I'd be like, no, we don't have the money for that tool. To have the resources to go, let's get the right tool for the right job. Oh, we screwed that up. We made a mistake. We have to redo that. No, we can't. We can't afford to do that. The customer's not going to pay for us to fix that. We have the resources to go, oh, no, we're doing this right. The most important thing we can get from our customer is a 5-star Google rating on Google Business. So we got to do it right. So have the right resources to do the best job that you can. Because it's always going to be harder, take longer, cost more.
Well, that's not always easy, but good advice.
No, and if you don't have the resources, then do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like anybody's ever come to me and said, I got this thing, I want to start this business. Okay, let's do it.
Love that attitude.
Okay, because this is kind of a celebration of, 25 years in business. So, on your website, I don't know if this number needs updating, but it says you've done over 4,000 projects, which is pretty impressive. Is there anything that stands out, like any project that you've worked on that you were like super proud of, or any shout out you want to give?
I mean, we've had so many great clients over the years, and we've also done a lot of important work. Like we were really focused on youth. So we got involved with Canoe Kayak Canada, largely because my kids were in it and I was volunteering on boards and, at canoe clubs. So we built them an app that literally, canoe kayak is an interesting sport. We have one of the best venues in the world in Dartmouth.
Yes, we do.
Shout out to Dartmouth again. But as a spectator sport, it's a 1,000-meter course. So you're standing at the finish line, looking up the course with binoculars going, have they started? Yeah, I don't know. Is that Joey? Can't tell. Oh, yeah. No, there. Okay, yes, they're going. So, and then you could be standing on the finish line, and the finish line can be so close, you can't tell who won because they get to the end and they shoot their boat and they throw the and they would then there's people up in the tower with cameras or devices and recording the finish, and then they type it into a computer and they print it out and they go around and nail it to a tree, which involves walking all the way around the end of the lake. And this is true everywhere. Like nationals for that sport, which is really cool. Nationals for that sport has the Olympic athletes and the 14-year-olds all at the same event. It's really cool. Happens in Ottawa, happens in Welland, Ontario, it happens in Regina, and they move it around. And the same thing, it takes 20 minutes to find out if you won, or maybe if you came third, you're going to progress to the semifinal. So we built an app and plugged it into their computer so that the result was almost instant. As soon as the guy in the finishing tower or the gal in the finishing tower went click, everybody could see on the app, oh, Johnny came third.
That's cool. You did that?
Yeah, we built that.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's here in this city, and then it's been used across the country.
Which
it's
is
been used for
amazing.
international competitions and nationals, and
Yeah.
I think we used it at Canoe 09, like from that time period on.
Okay.
And we've done all kinds of work in the arts too. You know, like everybody needs a website. So from the Brunswick Street Mission to the Nova Scotia Talent Trust, we're Theatre Nova Scotia, Symphony Nova Scotia, Neptune. We've usually been able to sponsor either in part or in whole, depending on their budget, their web applications.
That's amazing. And you're from Halifax?
I was born in Fredericton.
Oh, yeah, you said that at the beginning.
Then I went to Toronto. Never intended to come back to Atlantic Canada. And then one night I went out to the Brunswick House and met a girl. She was on a co-op. This is the best recruiting strategy for Nova Scotia. We should do more of it. I said this to the premier a couple of different times, to different premiers over the years. We should do this more. Send the co-ops to Toronto, and then they'll come home, guys and gals, and they'll bring partners. So I followed her home.
Amazing.
Well, I followed my husband here. But I met him out in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. So I don't know if that's a good recruiting strategy.
You're here, it works.
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
Well, that's amazing. I only asked where you're from because I was like, that's cool that, you know, you can say that you've had a hand in all of these different websites. You know, when you go online now, it's like, wow, I've done a lot of this, which must be really cool. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's pretty cool.
No, and again, you sort of get used to it. It's one
Right.
website at a time.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know, that's it. That's it for our questions. But, you know, we like to kind of leave the floor open to you. Is there anything that you're excited for? Anything you want to promote or, you know, for the near future? Obviously, you have, I think, some celebrations.
Yeah, we're moving in. We're mostly moved into a new office, so we're going to get to have an open house and have a party. And we're right down on the waterfront beside the beer garden or whichever thing that is. So that's exciting.
Very exciting.
But one of the things that's invigorated me personally is, and no, most of the people, you did what? And you had the same response. I started a roofing company.
I love it.
You did what? John, just a second. You got a cushy job sitting at a computer, pushing little dots around a screen for a living, and you started a roofing company. Yeah, I said, just like a software company. It's the same. What do you mean? You're putting roofs on. Yeah, we are, but it's online marketing. It's process. It's recruiting, which, you know, we have almost no turnover in the IT industry. Like we've had one competitor, well, not a competitor, but another IT company steal one of our people in the last year and a half.
Wow, that's incredible.
You forgot to mention that you also get a really nice tan.
Roofing, yeah. No, look, if you want to work outside,
You can't
if
see
you
it,
wanna
folks,
get-
but he's got a great tan.
if you want to get in shape, I'm in the best shape of my life because I needed to understand the business. And I've been messing around with roofs for a long time. And I wanted a process business, and it's a process business.
So, for our listeners
Yeah.
who want to achieve their business goals or get some roofing done, what's the best way to get in touch with any of your companies?
Sure. But I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to message me. But immediac.com is our website. You'll find, you know, the web app SEO business there. And the roofing business has absolutely taken off over the last 6 months. Like literally when the guy's going out the door to do estimates, it's like, oh no, wait, here's one more on the way. Like this afternoon, he's driving to Mount Uniac and he's going to stop in Sackville and then he's going to go all the way to the valley. And the people, yesterday was crazy. People, when can you get here to measure it? And then when can you do it? Because it's leaking. Rainy days.
Wow.
But it's a process business, training business, safety business. That was sort of new, but I understood that.
Well, I just got to say, congratulations. Best workplace in Atlantic Canada. 25 years in business. You got a new office. You got a new business. It's exciting times for you. So congratulations.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to All Hands on Tech. Interested in learning more? Visit us on our website at www.digitalnovascotia.com. We'll see you next time.
This
has been
a Podstarter
production.